This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber. And we are back for the onside kick right here on Most Valuable Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything when it comes to the world of the NFL. Going back to the old days by saying the phrase that I know Dave used to make fun of me for.
The world of football.
The world of football, the world of baseball, the world of basketball. And we are entrenched in the world of the NFL. And actually I think it was Sunday night, I'm like, oh man, I gotta come up with some topics to send Mark, and I'm looking and I'm like, man, the Chargers would be good to talk about, but you know, that game's on Thursday, and I don't know, like going up Wednesday, if that would be really enough time. And then it hit me, Mark, I didn't have to come up with topics.
Nope.
Because what is today?
Today's draft day.
Today is draft day, our second mock draft for the NFL, and we actually got a ton of comments on our first mock draft. None of them, or a few of them, were positive. Most of them were negative.
It's a mock draft.
Complaining about
typical
players that we had on there because apparently we had guys that weren't first-round talent. But like I said, in that podcast, that was just us taking crap, throwing it at the wall. All right, we're going to see what has stuck, what hasn't stuck as we move forward into our 2.0 today. The order has changed. There's a lot of people that have changed. Guys have rose, guys have fell, and we're going to get into that in 1 second. Before we do, a little bit of housekeeping. Number one, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluable-podcast. That's where you help support us and make sure we can keep doing this every single day, what we love doing for you guys every single day. You can also support us by getting an MVP t-shirt. That is down below in the store in our description, or at mostvaluablepodcasts.com, where you can get your MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, go over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. I believe the last one we got for the onside kick, I'm going to pull it up really quick because I do this on the Primetime Podcast and Brandon seems to love it. Our last rating that somebody wrote for us was January 28th of 2018, 5-star rating from King B. Lang, and it's a great show. Good all-around podcast, would recommend to any football fan, and we are a 4.5 out of 5 mark. I would love for that to get as close to 5 as possible. We get that way with you guys going and rating and reviewing the show. But Mark, it is mock draft time. This is where we kind of go through our picks. We split it up into 3 segments. If you're on podcasters around the world, you just got to sit back, relax. We talk about it all for you. If you're on YouTube, it'll be 3 individual videos with the full podcast coming out at the end. We will start with you, Mark. We'll do 1 through 10. Give us your 1 through 10 for mock draft 2.0.
Sure. 49ers at number 1 overall are going to go with none other than Nick Bosa, defensive lineman out of the Ohio State University. Cardinals going with Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Raiders at number 3 overall, going to go Greedy Williams, cornerback, LSU. Falcons somehow keep making their way up to the top. Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. The Jets are going to go with Greg Little, the offensive tackle out of Ole Miss. The Bills going with N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, ASU. That's going to be Arizona State. Jaguars going with Justin Herbert, quarterback out of Oregon, assuming he is coming out. The Bucks going with DeAndre Baker, cornerback out of Georgia. Then we got the Giants going with Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of, once again, the Ohio State University. And finally, we got the Lions going with Ed Oliver, defensive lineman out of Houston.
And it's funny, I know we talked about it with the Nick Bosa Ed Oliver a couple weeks ago, but it looks like Ed Oliver falling. He's fallen on both Brandon and I's big boards that we came out with about a week or two ago. And now on the mock draft, he has fallen as well because he fell for me going into mine. 49ers at number 1. Just like Mark said, they're going to go with Nick Bosa, the defensive end from the Ohio State University. Then the Cardinals at 2. They're going to keep the defensive train going Greedy Williams, cornerback from the LSU Tigers. Then the Raiders, they're in an interesting spot. Could be a reach for some people. This could be one that's kind of maybe Nostradamus Ricky because he could rise up to this point. But they need an edge rusher, a pass rusher. They're going to go with Josh Allen, the outside linebacker from the Kentucky Wildcats, Big Blue Nation. Then at 4, the Falcons, just like Mark had, Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle from Alabama Roll Tide. The Jets, just like Mark, going to go Greg Little, offensive tackle from Ole Miss. Wow, I just noticed that. That is the 4th SEC player that I have on my mock draft in a row, and it doesn't stop as the Bills will go ahead and take Jonah Williams, an offensive tackle from Alabama, 5 straight SEC players. That streak will end, though, with the Jags, as they will take Justin Herbert, the quarterback from the Oregon Ducks. The Bucks will then go Rashawn Gary, I always screw that up, Rashawn Gary, the defensive end from Michigan. Then the Giants go Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from Houston. And at number 10, the Lions going Devin Bush, the linebacker from the state that Detroit is in, the Michigan Wolverines.
Well, there you go.
The first team we're going to look at, Mark, in this top 10 is the Cardinals. Because not only after this week, if they beat the Falcons, they will not be here at number 2. They will not even be at 3. They will be at 4 because the Falcons will then move ahead of them, and it'll probably be 49ers, Raiders, Falcons, and Cardinals in that order. But the reason why I want to start with the Cardinals is, let's say they are at number 2, like they are for our mock draft. Mm-hmm. They've got a decision to make because they got 3 big needs. One on the defensive side that I had them going with, cornerback. One on the offensive side that you had them going with in offensive line help. And then another that might be a reach at number 2 in wide receiver. What's going through your mind with the Cardinals, and why did you ultimately decide for them to go offensive tackle at number 2?
To me, it's pretty simple. It's just the simple fact that you have gotten yourself a young rookie quarterback who, of course, will be going into year number 2. But
you still don't trust to throw the ball.
Yeah, you don't want him to throw the ball. You're scared about that. Even though, he was touted as one of the most ready quarterbacks in the draft. But, you've got this young guy. You need to protect him. It's that simple for me. Part of the reason the Arizona Cardinals are a bad team is because they cannot protect the quarterback.
And, for me, this is the conundrum that was going through my head at number 2 was, what do they go with? Do they go with offensive line? Do they go with the cornerbacks that early? Because Greedy Williams, for me, was in the top 5 for my personal rankings on my big board. And really on top of it, too, you've got the decision that you have to make. Let's say they do go offensive tackle or offensive line. You got a debate to have them between Greg Little and Jonah Williams, because most people are saying, Greg Little, he's going to be a guy that will play tackle at the next level, whereas Jonah Williams, who you have them going with, a lot of people are saying early on, I know it's early, we're going to go through a lot of this throughout draft process, but they're looking at him as the guy where it's he's a tackle in college, but at the next level, we're going to move him inside, and he's going to be playing guard instead of tackle like Little will.
It's potential, and sometimes, a coach will or a coach and GM will like that flexibility. When you're an offensive line that's not that good, sometimes you have to mix things around. It's not
whatever
bad.
you're good at, we'll plug you there because we need both.
Exactly.
Kind of
It happens sometimes. And really for the Cardinals, I think they're in a good spot if they win or lose, because it doesn't matter. They could drop back and Greg Little or Jonah Williams, one of them will be there. Greedy Williams might still be there as well. They're going to be able to fill a need, and they're probably going to be a top 5 pick, even if they win a game. They should still be up there. So they're going to have the good fortune of being able to kind of have the pick of the litter.
Yeah, because I even look at it, I don't think the Raiders or the Falcons would go offensive tackle or offensive lineman over any of the defensive guys at the top of this draft. I just look at that one and thought that it was interesting, where it's for me, the whole reason I had them go cornerback instead of tackle was I looked at it and I was looking at just the positions overall, and I was sometimes it's good to get that top tackle early on, but I also looked at it and was hey, you're going to have a high second-round pick. If you really want to, take one of the guys that are going to be there. Right there, second pick of the second round, what would that be? 34th overall. Go ahead and take the guy there, because cornerback, there could be a lot more of them that go in the first round to where you don't have that same pick of the litter-esque when it comes to that cornerback position, and you get virtually the best cornerback in this draft class.
Yeah, and it all really depends on the team. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals were known for defense for so long, but really offensively, I mean, things have kind of fallen apart. You had a great run game. You know, where has that been? You had a good quarterback in Carson Palmer. For a while, this was a team that people were thinking were Super Bowl bound year after year. Never made it happen, but they had great wide receiver in Larry Fitzgerald. He's not going to be around that much longer. You know, there's all these pieces that are falling apart for the Cardinals. They are not one of these simple, like, 2-3 year turnarounds. This is a team that odds are we might not have seen the worst days for the Arizona Cardinals. Next year is probably going to be a bad year as well before things finally start to maybe turn around for them. So they kind of can't lose, but I think you kind of have to look at this and say, who is a guy that we can get, can be a solid foundational player, and we can just let him be there, and he will be here for years.
And actually looking at it, they would not have 34. They would have the 33rd pick, so the first pick of the second round, day 2, they would have that pick as well.
Yeah, and things are obviously going to change, but, you know, they're in a good spot where they can really just pick whoever, you know.
How about another team with this is kind of the rookie quarterback syndrome, and we got a couple of those teams, especially here early on. Like the Cardinals are one, the Bills are one, but the one I want to bring up that you said you wanted to talk about were the Jets, because both you and I pretty nail on the head this one where there's no disagreements, where they have Sam Darnold. It's time to protect him. It's time to make sure that he has time to throw and has time to make the read, because otherwise he's throwing it to the other team.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the issues here. You're going to have people pretty soon who are going to be calling for Darnold's head, saying, this was the wrong pick. You know, we shouldn't have gone with him, even though what was your option? You shouldn't have traded up. Yeah, exactly. You know, especially as soon as one of these other guys does well. I mean, Baker Mayfield excluded because he was number 1 overall. You couldn't manage to get that.
Yeah.
But, like, if next year Rosen turns it around or Josh Allen starts to do well and Darnold is still throwing picks, people are going to be pissed. People are going to be very mad at the Jets. And you can say the exact same thing for the Cardinals and stuff like that, except for the fact that the Cardinals got the last quarterback, Lamar Jackson not included. So that's kind of one of those dangerous things. I mean, the Jets had the option to pick between Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. So if one of those guys is better, you're going to get exactly what the Chicago Bears hear all the time. Oh, you could have went with Mahomes. You know, and that's the thing that organization has to hear.
Live with.
And if you're lucky, you'll have a Watson, Trubisky, and Mahomes all look pretty good right now. Next year, maybe Rosen, Darnold, Allen, and Mayfield are all going to look good. But for right now, it's obvious that Darnold needs something to help him out. And you could say that, you know, maybe 5 is a good spot to, you know, reach at it. Or not reach, but go for a wide receiver. But I don't think you can pass up one of these top offensive linemen.
The thing I worry about when it comes to the Jets is that, because obviously their top 3 needs are similar to the Cardinals in some sense. Yeah. Where it's anybody on the offensive line, somebody to catch the ball in the receiving core, and then a defensive position where Cardinals, it's cornerback.
Anybody.
Yeah, the Jets, it's
besides a quarterback.
It's an edge rusher. And here's the thing I worry about with the Jets is that because this is a heavily defensive, loaded draft, I wonder if they're going to look at it, especially if, let's say, Josh Allen falls, or even like you look at it, you've got Rashad Gary that's there. You've got Devin Bush, who's also a guy who can rush from the outside, although he's kind of a little raw at this point. Some of those guys could rise in this draft prospect that we have in our top 10. I just worry with the Jets And also because it is Todd Bowles of defensive-minded head coach, hey, maybe I can win with a stronger defense.
And no guarantees Todd Bowles is going to still be around.
True,
either.
he could still get fired by the end of the season or on Black Monday?
Yep.
Usually after week 17. And I just worry with the Jets, where for me, it's offensive tackle here all day, every day, because as of right now, I've got no wide receiver. Like, you have Harry in your top 6. I don't have a single wide receiver in my top 10 at this point.
Yeah.
And for me, the Jets, I think wide receiver would be a little bit of a reach compared to the 2 tackles that we have, especially if Jonah Williams and Greg Little are still on the board. For me, there's so many pass rushers in this draft. It would be a mistake if they didn't go with Williams or Little, because, and this is not going to change. This will be the same thing on draft night. Because they traded up to get Sam Darnold, they don't have a second-round pick. And I know, like you mentioned when I threw that out in the 1.0, because we were talking about the Colts, you had mentioned, oh, well, they could trade for a second-rounder. Yeah, but right now, they don't have one. If the order stays what it is right now, they will have the 5th overall pick and then not have a pick until the 71st pick in the 3rd round. And for me, because of that, because you chose to trade up to get Sam Darnold, a decision that you said there's even some people criticizing in the New York fan base, you really got to hit this pick, because if you don't, you're waiting a long time until that second pick.
And that might be a time where we see the Jets make another trade, but this way, this time the other way. Maybe they trade back. Because when you've got a lot of needs, I mean, why not? If you can recoup that second round, get another first round out of it.
Especially if you get a bidding war going between like the Giants and the Jaguars, who are looking for that quarterback, and kind of, nobody in the top part of this draft has really gotten a trade. Let's get a bidding war between these 2 teams going to try to get that quarterback. Not because we're going to take them, but because you call up your stadium mate in the Meadowlands. I don't know. Hey, Coach Shermer, I don't know if you want to pull the deal, but I'm telling you, Tom Coughlin's on the other line, and he really, really wants this pick. You want Justin Herbert to go over to Jacksonville when you could have made this deal? Like, that is something else that you can kind of, maybe we see go on with the Jets, because same thing like the Cardinals. There's a possibility that, let's say the order is what it is right now, they make a deal with the Jaguars, they move back 2 spots, Greg Little is still there at 7, is still there at 10, whoever they trade with, Jacksonville or the Giants.
Yeah. And really, when I look at this for the Jets too, it's another time with the Cardinals of, no matter what you're doing, you're probably going to get a good player who's going to help your team out, and you need a lot of them. So there's not too many bad moves, bad decisions for them. And these are 2 teams that are going to be heavily dependent on free agency, because they've got a lot of things that they need to fix. And if they can get a good player to come their way in free agency, which might be a hard sell,
which
for
will obviously
the Cardinals
change
or the
the
Jets.
needs as well.
Yeah, and it could be a hard sell for either one of these teams, because they are not a team that is 1 or 2 players away, and maybe they can push themselves over the edge. So it'll like I said, it'll be a hard sell, but if they can somehow manage to get like one of these wide receivers in free agency to come their way, that would be huge. And then in that case, I think it shores it up even more of, you really, really have to go for offensive line, because now you have an offense. You can suffer with a little bit less of a quality defense if you have a great offense.
Last thing, mentioning quarterback needy teams, last thing I want to throw your way. And this, to me, Brandon and I had mentioned this on a different side of, like, should he do what he is currently doing, and that is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray right now, as we sit here, what is this? The 11th of December at 6:55 Central Time, it is known that he is drafted by the Oakland A's, is guaranteed almost $5 million in that first contract, is going to play baseball next year. Yeah. However, they did permit him to play the college football season. However, this past weekend, Adam Schefter was on SportsCenter and said not only are there NFL execs that list him as a first-round graded talent, obviously he's a Heisman winner, but also number two, there's a for sure 100% that he will be drafted in one of the 7 rounds in the NFL draft, and there's a possibility that he could even be a first-round draft pick in this year's 2019 NFL draft. I want to put you in the shoes of an NFL exec, just any exec for any team. If you need a quarterback, would you pull the trigger in the first round on Kyler Murray, knowing what he is, but also knowing that there's a possibility to where he could be just a baseball star, and the year that you have his draft rights, you won't be able to use them?
Yeah, and for me, there's no way I'm going to draft somebody who there's a good chance he's not going to ever touch, my team's
Unless
field.
it's like a 4th, 5th round, even maybe not even that, like a 6th, 7th, maybe.
Yeah, if he's maybe 4th round, 5th round for sure, I'm willing to do it. And that's not saying his
talent is bad. That's just saying, like you said.
Why would I waste my pick?
Because you only get that draft right for a year. Exactly.
And I look at it and I wonder, because you said $5 million is his guarantee.
Just under $5 million will be that first year baseball, and how the baseball contract's worth is he's got a minor league deal, so he's only got 1 year before he becomes an unrestricted free agent in baseball.
Yeah, and you sit there and you're like, all right, let's think about some of these rookie quarterbacks. To give an example, Deshaun Watson, and I pick him because
he's done it.
But I also pick him because he was not the first. He was not the second quarterback taken overall. Kyler Murray, if he gets taken, he's probably not going to be the first quarterback taken because someone's not going to say, Giants who desperately need a quarterback aren't going to go, or the Jaguars, let's take the riskiest one. They're
going to take what they think is the safest one.
Exactly. And Deshaun Watson, after he got drafted from the Texans, his contract there was about $14 million, a little less than $14 million. And I would say an exact amount, but my computer is freezing up on me, so I can't scroll down. But football contracts and baseball contracts, it's not like he's going to be
Deshaun Watson's contract.
Yeah, it's not like one of them's going to be rich, one of them's going to be poor. Obviously, $5 million in 1 year is pretty nice. The flip side is, with baseball, I do feel like you have a little tiny bit of less security in the sense of minor league deal. You've got a year. Prove it. And it's not like nobody else is going to give the guy a chance. I mean, he was the 9th overall pick in 2018 by the A's. So it's not like people aren't excited for him.
Yeah.
And the prospect of Kyler Murray. But if I'm a NFL team, even though the money could potentially be better, and the security could be nice, because if he's a first-round pick, that's 5 years that he has. He might feel more comfortable with that. He had a lot of success this year with Oklahoma. He might want to continue that. Whereas baseball, sure, the GMs are excited about him, but I don't think there's that many people outside of hardcore baseball fans that are really, really excited about Kyler Murray playing baseball. There's more excitement in the NFL, but it's just one of those things where you can't be sure. This quarterback class already isn't amazing, so a lot of teams are thinking about skipping on the quarterback right now. There's only really 2 teams that desperately need a quarterback. So I don't think there's going to be that convincing of an argument for Kyler Murray to switch over and play football.
The reason why, if I was an NFL exec, I would not take him in the first round. I wouldn't take him in the second round. I wouldn't take him in the third round. The 4th round is the earliest I would think about taking him. And the reason why is he's never said, there might be a chance I don't play baseball. It's always been, I'm going to play baseball. And whenever people start talking about it, it's, he'll play baseball, but could he also play football? And for me, if you're my quarterback, and I mentioned this when Brandon and I talked about it on the Primetime Podcast this week too, is I'm drafting you as my quarterback. The reason Bo Jackson could play baseball until October and then come over and play football, not only was it a different time, but also he was a running back. He wasn't a quarterback.
Yeah.
And in this NFL, the quarterback is so crucial. Like, you look at the NFL season alone, let's say the A's do really good. The A's make the playoffs. The A's go a little bit deep into the playoffs. I'm talking like first round, maybe ALCS, if they're lucky. That means I'm not getting you until mid to late October, where my season is halfway over.
And you're going to maybe learn our playbook?
Exactly. Like, you got to come in halfway through the season, then learn the playbook. It's impossible. It's impossible for an NFL quarterback to do that. So that's why, to me, it's like, if I really needed a quarterback, the 4th round's the earliest I would do it. I probably wouldn't pull the trigger until 6th or 7th. But if he's still there in the 6th or 7th, I'd just throw that pick away. I would say, you know what? I'm going to take him, because what if there's a chance? What if he goes to baseball at that point and is like, wow, I thought I was going to be better at this. I'm going to go play football.
Yeah.
Like, that could happen. As most people say, are saying that he's a better baseball player than he is a football player. But for me, the baseball thing is not in 100% like for sure like it's going to pan out. It's not like it's like, oh, he's going to be the next Bryce Harper or anything. If he's there in the 6th round, I would throw something at him. Although I feel like there's going to be some NFL exec that in the 3rd round goes draft him. And that he'll be Russell Wilson, take it in the 3rd round, but the exact opposite because he'll play baseball.
Yeah, and you got to – it's a gamble. It really is. I mean, he could be a great football player, but he could be a good baseball player too. You know, I mean, I guess in 2018 here, I see his batting average was a .296, 10 home runs, 47 ribbies, and he got 10 stolen bases. So, like,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a lot of potential with either way he goes. And I just feel like, you are starting off with some security in football, but here's the thing. There are 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And you're going to take that and say that, you know, 10 of them will never be replaced by you. And then the rest of them are average. So, like, maybe if you're good, you can pass some of them. And then you got some bad ones. Sure, whatever. But in baseball, even if you're not the starting, I mean, he plays the outfield. He can play center. He can play left. He can play right.
Yeah.
He's got some flexibility in that case. And baseball purists, don't get mad at me when I say that he's got flexibility. But he does. And even if you are not the starting, one of the 3 starting outfielders, you still have a pretty good chance of getting into that rotation and playing a solid amount of games because there's so many damn baseball games.
And the A's are an AL team, so if he doesn't play the field, he could be a DH. So, I mean,
he's got a lot of potential.
That's 4 spots.
And he was an infielder as well, so he could put potential. I mean, that's a little riskier.
Secondary position.
Yeah, exactly. He can flex into that when you need somebody.
Who knows? Maybe he develops into, like, we don't know baseball what it's going to bring for him, but we do know at this point it seems like he's very committed to baseball.
And that, I mean, that in itself for me, the fact that there doesn't seem to be any doubt makes me say, I don't care how good the kid potentially could be at football. I don't want anything to do with him. He's not, to me, he is not a player who's eligible to be drafted. Because I mean, he obviously is, but in my eyes, he's not.
I would tell you this. If he was 100% committed to football, you know where he would be on my mock draft? Number 7. The Jags would be taking him.
Makes sense.
If he was 100%. Like, what I've seen on the football field from this kid astonishes me. Like, I still have dreams about that run that he had against West Virginia, where it's like, oh, it's a scramble. Oh, he's going to get time. Oh, he's going. And that's a 53-yard touchdown. What did I just watch? How awesome was that? And what did he just do? Wait, where's the remote? I got to DVR this. I gotta go back and watch this again. Like, that's the type of plays he can do. He would have been 7 if he was 100% committed to football right now. But because he's not going to be a first rounder.
Yeah.
I feel like some team in the 3rd round will take a swing at him, see what they can do. It'll probably be a team like the Patriots not saying the Patriots exactly, but a team like that where it's like, hey, we're a good enough team, we're just going to throw this pick away.
Or a team that just has a ton of picks.
Exactly. We're just going to throw this pick away, stash it, see if he does come over and signs a contract with us at any point. Because I know Dave was really hyped this weekend of like, oh my God, could he be like the next Bo Jackson? And could he play both? I don't think so because of the position he plays, but who knows? Maybe it's one of those things where I know the A's are getting better, but what if they have a really bad season and it's like, hey, I'm going to work something out to where if we're this bad by this point, I'm going to go over to football. I don't know if it would work quite like how Bo Jackson
I think teams
did.
are a little too greedy to pull that off nowadays.
Exactly. Like, it's not going
And
to
those
work the same way.
contracts are worth too much money for you to let that guy go do something where he might get hurt.
Yeah, especially in the baseball where there is no salary cap. And once you're paid, you're getting paid the big bucks. Like, there's a reason why there's $200 million contracts, $400 million contracts in baseball. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Anything from our picks to the teams we talk about to what are your drafts? Who would you have in your top 10? Let us know what you're thinking down below in that comment section.